And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show, Wednesday, January 21st. 5-game slate ahead of us tonight on the DraftKings side. 7 o'clock, 2 7:30s, 2 8s. We also have OKC and Milwaukee at 9:30, Raptors and Kings at 10. Don't hate it for today. Would I rather have those two games? For sure. But Raptors Kings, both on the back-to-backs, not on the DraftKings main slate. Doesn't hurt to not pay attention to that one right out of the gate. We're going to have plenty to talk about here. Solid enough slate. No good basketball, unfortunately. Cavs Hornets, not so much. Although, closer than it appears. Pacers Celtics, Nets Knicks. Interesting. Hawks Grizz. Pistons, Pelicans. That is what we have today on DraftKings. Might as well look up FanDuel and see if they included the games or not. My guess is that they included the two late games and we have different slates. Let's find out. Chat might beat me to it. Nah, same slate. Good stuff. Good stuff. 5-gamer across both sites. 2-game night slate, I guess. So 7, 2 7:30s, 2 8s. That is what we have ahead of us. I came dangerously close to a good recommendation in King of the Court last night. Obviously, Luka, the dude you need, typically. Emmanuel Quickly, 40 and 10 last night. He's the guy I gave out on Twitter. I had Bam, which ultimately didn't work out the way that I needed it to, but Emmanuel Quickly knocking on the door of winning King of the Court last night is kind of fun to see. He stood out. Weird slate, too. All the chalk was dreadful. It's so bad. Oh my God, it was bad across the board. It was so bad. I woke up and started looking at box scores. I was like, I don't even need to look at this. I know for sure my lineups aren't anywhere near what I want or need. But now we're here. New day, new time. Basketball to talk about. So let's talk about said basketball, shall we? Cavs, Hornets. Hornets are 2.5-point dogs at home. 237 total. For reference, this is tied for the highest total on today's slate with Atlanta and Memphis. Indy, Boston, Brooklyn, and New York are about 10 plus points less than this. Atlanta and Memphis the same. Pistons, Pels closer to this one than the others. No Darius Garland for Cleveland once again. No Sam Merrill for Cleveland once again. On the Hornets side, they're essentially at full strength. Mason Plumlee obviously out, but that's not all that relevant. Only piece of injury news that we have here is Tijan Salon. Probable. So yeah. Hornets, 2.5-point dogs. And if anybody's curious, that's also where I have it. I've got Cavs by 2.8. And the Hornets offense actually projects identically to the Cleveland offense today. Both teams, based on the dudes they have in and the minutes that I have them projected for, project as 118.9 offenses. Both about 4 points better than average. Certainly didn't think about that happening when I first looked at this. Now, the difference, unsurprisingly, is in defense, where the Cavs are 2.5 points better than average, and the Hornets are basically the same but worse. But oddly close game that I don't think most people would be thinking about like that. Charlotte's starting to get a bunch of actual rotation guys, which is helping. It's weird. The best dudes on the team don't seem to be doing what you want them to. So first First rip this morning, about 30% ownership coming into Brandon Miller. It's got some sizable negative leverage on it. Donovan Mitchell at about 25%, Knipple at 20%, some more negative leverage on it. Jalen Tyson around 20%, and then Dean Wade, Diabate, Naquan Tomlin, Jared Allen, they're all around 10%. But it's Brandon Miller breaking free. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell isn't breaking free. He's just Donovan Mitchell. And then Con Knipple, Jalen Tyson, both sitting there in that 6K range. Both guys have shooting guard eligibility. Tyson also gets the small forward piece. I kind of feel better about the optimal rates here than the ownership. But again, 5-game slate. So like some of these numbers will look a little different. But 20% optimal Brandon Miller makes a lot more sense in my mind than 30% owned Brandon Miller. But on the opposite side, like Con Knipple being half the optimal, this will all hash out throughout the day. You're not going to have these sort of giant negative leverage marks, especially for guys that play like this. This is an artifact of 9 a.m. Need That says Mobley. You'll note his name is nowhere to be found on here right now. Evan Mobley, currently projected for about 5% ownership. Optimal rate 11. So, let's say that he's about a 10%er. He's 9K today. That's a tough click. That's a tough click. I like the spot. I like every bit of it. But we're going to find more cost-effective options as we work through this slate. Friend of the program, Jorge. Just appreciating your info as always. Got 11th in the $5 lotto. And not thanks to Hardaway being 2 of 1,239,000. No, I got it wrong. 12,394,818 from the field. I needed one more rebound from him to win a prize picks card, and I didn't get it. He had 2. I had over 2.5. The other piece of that card was Spencer Jones to get a turnover, which we got. And then we got rebooted out of DeAndre Ayton. But dude, 11th in the lotto. I mean, like, that's great. It sucks, but it's great. Like, it's a great finish. That's obviously where you want to be. It sucks for you that the difference between that is what, 100,000 and 1,000, or potential, or maybe less. That one stings. But I mean, anytime that you can put yourself to 11th, you've got a shot to get first. That's all you can hope for. In that contest last night, all you're hoping to do is find out you have a lineup in the top 700. And after that, you're just hoping you get lucky. Wish you would have got that one, or that would have been fun. Oh, keep it moving here. Good morning, Josh. Another super chat from Jones. Took down the fadeaway last night on FanDuel. Here are your flowers once again. Been doing this with you since Osmo and 7 a.m. shows. Thanks, brother. Kudos, man. Kudos. You'll love to see it. Taking down fadeaway on the old FanDuel. So that's a big contest. Typically, I assume that was not a little entry contest. Good work, boys. Good work. I'm just going to assume all of that happened because I set the table thought process-wise for you guys 9 a.m. yesterday. And then we'll give some additional credit to Greg and Eric for taking everybody home from 6 to 7. A lot of comments, as if this show should somehow be live before lock at 9 in the morning. I'll never get it. I'll never get it. I would love to have a little bit more of this game, but I don't see where you would go. Because I think Mobley explains it perfect. 9K power forward center. Like, interesting boom rate. But then you're just going to be comparing him to a lot of other 8K, 9K dudes. And you need a hell of a number at 9K. I mean, realistically, we're talking about probably like 50 fantasy points out of Mobley. How about Bulls yesterday? I'm going to be honest with you. Forgot they played, and I don't remember who they played or if they won or lost. So I guess I should find that out. Bulls beat the Clips by 20. Oh, yeah, Vooch was decent out of the gate. I ended up with too much Chicago, which I didn't love, but I also had too much of everybody else that sucked. Like Moses Moody. Fuck him. 8K LaMelo is probably kind of sneaky. Because we're getting him on a day where they're not back-to-backing. Because we got 32 minutes out of LaMelo on the 12th against the Clippers. We got 29 minutes against the Lakers on the 15th. But we've seen them like step on his minutes a little bit in these back-to-backs. 21 without the start on the 17th, 19 against Denver. He's probably getting slept on a bit. I think that's the angle. At least based on where ownership is for this first game. I think 8K LaMelo Ball is the guy that I'm most interested in to be different. Because like as it's set up now, you're going to get Brandon Miller, you're going to get Donovan Mitchell, you're going to get Knipple, you're going to get Tyson. I don't have takes on 20% owned dudes because that's just, they're good plays. If we're talking about somebody that's not getting a lot of love today, in the battle of the balls, oh, it just hit me now. LaMelo versus Lonzo. I think 8K LaMelo Ball should have a closer eye. After that, I think I'm cooked. You know, like you can't really mess around with Kalkbrenner and Diabate anymore. Dean Wade doesn't do anything when he's out there. Hard to trust Tomlin with Wade back. You know, you can always roll the dice on someone like Jared Allen. He's just never going to look like a priority. Yeah, shout out LaMelo Ball as the sneak play. Pay attention to the Brandon Miller ownership. That'll come down just because of life. And I think it's happening a lot just because of small forward on a 5-gamer. All right, everybody that's here. I didn't talk about this yesterday because of the slate. I didn't think that it would do a very good job of like explaining what it is, because the whole slate yesterday was just a giant Q tag. We either had both teams on a back-to-back, we had one team on a back-to-back. If the team wasn't on a back-to-back, they had a ton of Q tags. Today is a little bit different, so I think I can do this. I don't know if you guys were paying attention. Oh yeah, shit, you guys can't see this. Hold on. Note the top of the screen. See this props section? So here's what we've got. New tool just dropped. It's going to be building out more and more as we go. And we've had something similar to this previously, but not nearly to the vibe that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. This is taking our OddsShopper True Odds, which you can see in this column here, and it's taking our DFS projections. Now, default is 50-50. I moved it to 20-80, but this is a split between our OddsShopper odds and our Stokastic projections. And we're using those to find out where the most profitable bets are out in the market. So this isn't necessarily like Portfolio EV, where we're taking those true odds, we're grabbing incremental edges. We're also adding in the projection element. So like, for example, we looked at Cleveland and Charlotte. So I'm going to click Cleveland and Charlotte. I'm going to switch this from Illinois to North Carolina Obviously, we default to Illinois, being based in Chicago. So here we go. This is what would be available to me in North Carolina for Cleveland and Charlotte with our projections and a baseline projection from OddsShopper. So Donovan Mitchell, under 4.5 rebounds at ProfitX is the best line out there. And using our projections in that line, it's a 5% EV. Here's what I want to talk about for what this is. Because there are times where this is going to look great. There are times less so. We're working on all of this. The best time to use this is going to be immediately after any sort of projections update. As you get further away from a projections update, obviously things are changing and we don't have updates immediately all the time. We are going to be looking to update projections significantly more frequently as we start to move on and start to build this tool out. But for right now, use it as guideposts. Use it as an ideas option. Like, don't immediately see, oh, there's 40% EV here. That needs to be a trigger in your mind. Like, is there something I'm missing? But if this is something that can help you be like a second set of eyes, you're like, I kind of liked DeAndre Hunter's under 3-point prop. And then maybe you open this up and you find out like the true odds are on your side, the model is on your side, and it shows, then, go ahead and fire that bet. And you can pick all the bets you want based on whichever sportsbook you're on. I could take a FanDuel line here and a FanDuel line here and parlay them together. One click, it'll take me straight over to FanDuel, make it very simple. And we're going to build this out in a big way. At some point in time, you'll be able to upload your own projections and change those weights. Right now, it's just Stokastic, but eventually, more customization. But moving forward through the morning, we're going to pop into this and see if there's anything interesting standing out in the betting markets for whichever game we're actually looking at. In this one, I don't really see anything that's like breaking away awesome. Would I be willing to take like Donovan Mitchell's rebound prop? Sure. I don't think there's a ton of like true value in it. Most of this seems to be about right. Evan Mobley one's a little interesting, but only 2% EV. But either way, we're going to use this tool moving forward. And it's going to grow and grow and grow. You'll be able to see that happen. If you have ideas, drop them into OddsShopper Discord or email support. Drop them in comments. Always looking to build this stuff out even more. But we just dropped this within the last couple days. You can see, still in beta. We're working through all of it. But we're putting changes in every single day. I talked about it on multiple calls yesterday. It's going to be a tool I think you guys really like. And it allows you to use our projections a little bit more than you had been previously. So keep that in mind. New tool. We'll bounce back and forth to it as we go. If I want more player X, should I boost ownership at the beginning or ROI after the crunch or in the pre-sims? Kind of depends. So like, let's say you want more of a guy that's like 1% owned. It'll end up being pretty difficult to do that after the fact. Think about it like this. Let's say a guy is projected for 1% ownership. In a pool of 5,000 lineups, he's going to be in 50 lineups. You can give all the positive ROI boosts in the world, but 40 of those lineups are probably already things you shouldn't play no matter what you do. So in that case, you probably want to try to get a few more options of that person into the pool by slightly boosting them and making their pool size a little bit bigger. If it's somebody that's already owned, you want to do that on the back end and boost their ROI. But remember, the more you do to your pool before you sim, the less accurate, potentially, your changes are. They don't have to be, but they could be. Like if you're going to take somebody that's 1% owned and you put them in for 30% of their pool, you're getting yourself away from what the results really mean. Now, if that's a situation where you're like, I think this guy's going to be out, that's slightly different. But if it's just to get more of somebody, there's a reason you're not getting them in the first place. But if it's a guy that's like 15% owned, he's already going to show up in, 1,000 of the lineups. Less than that, but you know what I mean. At that point, boost them after the fact. That will be more accurate. Somehow I'm on the NFL. Don't need that. Let's go to game 2. Indiana Pacers in Boston. Celtics are 10.5-point favorites, 226 total. No injury news of relevance on the Pacers side. Still no Benedict Mathurin. Their Q tags are G League guys. No relevant injury news on Boston. Josh Minot's still out. Jaylen Brown probable. We're not waiting on anything here. So what we're getting for the Pacers and the Celtics is just what we're getting for the Pacers and the Celtics. About 20% ownership coming into Neemias Queta, which seems higher than you'd want it to be on a day where he looks the same as he always does. 20% to Andrew Nembhard at 6,700. That price is starting to get to a point where I like it. About 15% ownership to Pritchard. And then about 10 for Nesmith, Siakam, Hauser. Just 7% ownership coming into Jaylen Brown at 9,800. I think the dynamic between Jaylen Brown and like Donovan Mitchell is a pretty interesting talking point for today. We've got Donovan Mitchell at 9,500. We've got Jaylen Brown at 9,800. Donovan Mitchell, 25% owned. Jaylen Brown, 7. Better matchup for Jaylen Brown. Better position for Jaylen Brown. Pretty comparable per minute guy. 1.43 for Donovan Mitchell in our model right now. 1.39 for Jaylen Brown. Now, there's a gap in boom bust. 38% for Mitchell, 28% for Jaylen Brown. This just makes me feel like Jaylen Brown should be like 15% owned. He seems like he's slipping through the cracks here. For me, and we can get to it too. Even in comparison to Cade, feels like Jaylen Brown is getting slept on in this Cade Donovan Mitchell sandwich. Jaylen Brown is interesting meat. Yeah, I like that. Now, after that, kind of For me, it's just the main Pacers dudes. The price for Nembhard looks better. The price for Nesmith. I get it. It's Aaron Nesmith, and he's not a great per minute dude, but 10% of him or 30 of Brandon Miller feels weird in a GPP scenario. $8,400 Siakam, just constantly like a guy you should have. Hard to have a take. Not the type of guy like I would be mad about having 20% of. I don't know how you go to like Hauser or Simons with any sort of confidence. Garza's minutes are trimming. Derek White is just overpriced. I can't do the Jay Huff or Furphy thing. My eye in this game is on Jaylen Brown, Aaron Nesmith, Nembhard, but that's where everybody is. Siakam as a pivot. $5,400 Queta getting 20% ownership scares the hell out of me. There's got to be better versions of that as we work through. Now, maybe there aren't. But it feels like there should be. Let's see if the props page has anything interesting for this one. Over 4.5 rebounds for Johnny Furphy is out there on Novig. Or BetMGM if you want to go that way. I don't like that Siakam one. I don't like the J Huff one. Under, not that this should matter, but unders on 1.5 threes always scares the hell out of me. It just feels so random. I mean, realistically, we have two decent valued options out there. It's Furphy over 4.5 boards, and it's Pascal Siakam under 1.5 threes. I would keep my focus on the Furphy one, but it's also Johnny Furphy, so you might not be enthused by looking at it. Nothing too crazy though. We're pretty close to the mark on all of these. We've had a couple of these lines be north of 5%. Furphy, the Donovan Mitchell one, the Siakam one. If I were taking anything, it would be Furphy. Steven, be a little nervous there. Be a little nervous. $15 minutes out of Garza last time out, 12 the game before that. If we want to take a look at the rotations quickly. Minimal rotation in the first quarter, essentially right back out. And we could talk about why in a bit. Relatively normal second half rotation, if you're a believer in that. And then on the Atlanta side, 2 games ago, standard issue rotations, got a third quarter rotation, never saw the floor again. Game was miles over at that point. So, yeah, like he's in play because I think that he can get to 22 minutes or whatever. And he's going to be a good enough per minute guy. There's some sneak to it. For sure. My guess is we just end up with better value by the time we get there. Our other 7:30 game is going to have a little bit less to talk about. Nets, Knicks. Obviously, we're in New York, but we're in MSG. 11.5 point favorites, 222 total. Day'Ron Sharpe, questionable for this one. Otherwise, everybody that's typically available is. Knicks on a back-to-back. So we don't have their injury report. More than likely, everybody's just playing. But we don't know that for sure. Mitchell Robinson could very easily not play in this game, or they're going to try to right the ship because the New York Knicks have lost 8 of their past 10 games, including their last 4. At Sacramento, at Golden State, at home against Phoenix, and then at home against Dallas. So keep an eye on the Mitchell Robinson situation. Again, this is a back-to-back. They could do other stuff. It seems like they may be excising Jordan Clarkson in place of Landry Shamet. I also think it's possible that Landry Shamet doesn't play today on the back-to-back because he's only been back for 3 games, at which point you would give those minutes right back to Jordan Clarkson. Likely. But when it comes to the Knicks, we typically just pay attention to the starters, considering they play the large majority of everything that they do. And if we look at this game in our current ownership projections, there's not a ton to say. It's 20% ownership to Josh Hart, who's also showing with some positive leverage. Towns is 15, Anunoby's 15. If Mitchell Robinson happens to play, it's 10. I think he can play today. I'm going to lean out, but I don't make judgments like that on someone like Mitchell Robinson at 9 o'clock in the morning. Brunson's sub 10% owned. Bridges is sub 10% owned. MPJ sub 10% owned. To me, that's another interesting option if you don't want to get 30% owned Brandon Miller and you don't want to spend $9,800 or whatever on Jaylen Brown. Maybe you get MPJ. Probably not too much else here. Maybe you feel a little bit better about Nick Claxton if Day'Ron Sharpe happens to be out. Wait. Knicks aren't on a back-to-back? Are they on the front end of a back-to-back? Holy shit. Why don't they have an injury report in? Good shout, guys. I'm stupid. I just assumed when I saw that they didn't have the injury report, they were on a back-to-back. Is this just my scraper? Oh, they just don't have any. So the Knicks just don't have anybody on the injury report right now. It's blank. It goes from Brooklyn to the next game. I think that's the first time I've ever had that happen. And it's making me think that they're on a back-to-back. Well, fuck it. Never mind. Mitchell Robinson's just in. Yeah. Ignore everything that I just said about the Knicks. In my mind, they were just on a back-to-back because I didn't see their injury report. They don't have anybody on it. Not a Q tag, not a G League dude, not around, nothing. They're just not in there. All right. Well, then Mitchell Robinson at 4,400 looks a lot better. Thank you, guys. It's the NBA. You don't typically just have a clean injury report in January. So I just assumed when I didn't see it, it wasn't there. It's just they just don't have it. That's funny. I knew it looked weird. Okay. Well, I feel better about the Knicks then. Whether that's Hart, whether that's Towns. Anunoby, little sneak. Prefer an MPE. MPJ just permanently underrepresented as far as I'm concerned. Just huge variance. And you see it from the standard deviation. MPJ, 11 and change standard deviation. Same minutes as Brunson, basically a point ahead of him. Pretty much the same minutes as Josh Hart, a point ahead of him. Same minutes as OG Anunoby, 2 points ahead of him. I like the variance coming in on MPJ. Man, I cannot believe the Knicks just don't have anybody on their stupid injury report. That's crazy. Oh, yeah. Steven, wait for it. It's coming, man. Now that I've done all of this, get ready for like 4 Knicks Q tags. MPJ over 6.5 rebounds on ProfitX between our projections and the book line, looking good. Similarly, Towns under 11.5 rebounds, looking tasty. And that's on DraftKings too. That's a nice line. If you want to take the under on Towns rebounds, I think that looks pretty damn good today. Here's one thing, I don't know if you guys saw it. So if there's somebody on your team relevant that has a tag, we're tracking those tags for everybody. So you can see here, Day'Ron Sharpe is questionable. So we're tagging the Brooklyn guys with that news. Let's say the Igor Demon was also questionable. Then this would show up with 2 questionable things here. It'll be like team 2, Day'Ron Sharpe and Igor Demon. We want to make sure that you guys are aware, sometimes these book lines are skewed in a certain direction based on whether or not guys are going to be in or out. These flags should help you understand maybe you shouldn't put a ton of weight into something like this. You want to think about okay, the Igor Demon under 2.5 threes is a recommended line. Day'Ron Sharpe's questionable. You can piece that together and think, well, Day'Ron Sharpe has essentially no tie to Demon's made threes. Whereas maybe you look at an under in rebounds for Nick Claxton with a Q tag on Sharpe and you're like, okay, there's too much synergy there. But if we're already getting Michael Porter Jr. over that number, if Day'Ron Sharpe's not here, you would think that this could get even better. So you do have to add a little bit of context in your brain while you walk through some of these spots. I think it's going to be really, really difficult to get to anything from Brooklyn other than MPJ unless we get Day'Ron Sharpe out. If we get Day'Ron Sharpe out, I do think Nick Claxton starts to become a little sneaky. We could see more minutes than we typically do. And just out of curiosity, what is Cam Thomas's price on FanDuel? $5K? Mildly interesting. All right, we're at the bottom half now, 9:30. Probably not the worst idea in the world to give you guys the schedule for the rest of the day. Coming up next, NFL Strategy Show, Laffy and Greg getting you guys set up for the conference title games this weekend. NHL Strategy Show coming up at 1:30. You will get myself and DK DFS at 5 p.m. for the NBA Deeper Dive. You will get Greg and Eric at 6 p.m. for Live Before Lock. Full slate of shows today, including NFL, NHL, and multiple NBA outcomes. Cannot beat it. Final two games of the slate lock at 8 o'clock tonight. Atlanta at Memphis. The Grizzlies are 1.5 point favorites. It's a 238 total for Atlanta. Still no Porzingis. Still no Risache. At this moment, everybody on a G League situation is doubtful, whether that's Asen Newell, Caleb Houston, Nikola Dursic, or Ray J. Dennis. None of that should matter. Kind of just the same thing we've been getting out of the Hawks over the past week or two. For the Grizzlies, Santi Aldama, questionable. Otherwise, still no Edie, Jerome, Pippen, or Clark. So as we circle back to DraftKings to take a peek, we get Memphis, we get Atlanta, and this is the first spot where we're getting a little bit more ownership, which is exactly what I want on a slate of this size. Oop, that's not the right thing to move. There we go. 30% ownership coming into a $6,900 Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 25 more for a Kongwu. 20 more for Dyson Daniels. Then we get into a Memphis group. All around 15 for Cedric Coward, Ja Morant, Jock Landale. But Kispert's 15. McCollum, Jalen Johnson, both around 10. Even Mo Gay is around 10. Aldama, sneaky enough, I guess, at 6,500. Lots of love coming into this game. I think just based on the way that I see it and the way that Ja played last time out, we're showing positive leverage here. I'm expecting Ja Morant to be a bit more popular than what we're seeing right here. We saw Corey Kispert get the start for Atlanta. Should get it again, 3,700. Certainly some upside there and some good flexibility with an MPE. You know, the trio at the top of Atlanta is kind of scary because realistically only one of them is expected to succeed. Figuring out which one that is scary. They're all kind of the same price at a different position, but the same rates. Tricky. You always feel like CJ McCollum can just get 32 minutes if things are working out. And then the clock struck midnight a bit on Jalen Johnson, maybe? $10,200, 10% owned, very expensive. Hasn't been playing great over the past 2-3 weeks. We'll see where that goes. I have not been a ultra believer in Jalen Johnson, so I'm curious to see it. I'm sure I'll end up with none of him tonight, and he's going to go drop one of those 30, 15, and 10 joints that he's been hanging periodically. But it seems like the Atlanta side is a bit easier to get to. The Memphis side is a bit of a mess. Realistically, it would be better if Santi Aldama just doesn't play. You could show a little bit more confidence. I mean, Triple J at 7,500 is an afterthought. KCP's minutes are down, and then they're randomly just playing Vince Williams, Cam Spencer, Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, John Conchar now. It's kind of a mess at the bottom for Memphis. I think Coward and Ja look the best, And I think that's you could see that in the ownership. But as I look at Atlanta, I'm probably a bit more interested in Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Okongwu than I am in Dyson Daniels. And then I'm probably more interested in Corey Kispert than I am against Dyson, or in comparison to Dyson Daniels. Now, we are showing some preposterously high value on some of these props. Over 6.5 rebounds for Dyson Daniels is pretty broken. This should help it a little bit. There we go. Under 1.5 threes for Triple J is your best value option here. Same bet for Okongwu, but plus 142 on it at no vig. Don't know why I still have Brooklyn and New York up there. Not as much value as it seems if you weigh those betting market odds a little bit more. A lot of situations where we want to take an under here on some of these shooters. What do I project Okongwu for in rebounds? Now, admittedly, I have not done any rate tweaks personally, but allegedly, I've got it at 8.4. We have it at 11.8. Did I not read? Did I just look at defensive rebounds or something here? I can't be that far off. I must be just looking at one of them. Give me a second. I didn't grab a slate yet. God, I'm so behind this morning. Anything good today? $18 fadeaway? Nope. 4-point play it is. That's the 50K 4-point play at least. That's better than you could typically hope for. I am very low on his rebounds. Let me see if I'm wildly under the prop. No, I got like 8.5. I got him at like 8.5. Let's dig into it a little bit further, Emac. Let's pull up Wowie. Let's take a look and say Trae Young off. Obviously. Kristaps Porzingis off. And then let's say Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, and Okongwu all played. This should fill in pretty nicely. We'll see where we end up here for rebounding rates in comparison to where I have them. All right. So in this sample, with Trae Young and Porzingis off, in games where their other four dudes like legitimately played, we've got 941 minutes for Onyeka Okongwu. He's averaging 2.8 offensive rebounds per 100 possessions and 8 defensive rebounds. 2.8 and 8. I have him right now at 3 and 8.7. So I'm pretty happy with where I have the Okongwu rates. I've got him in at 34 minutes. So my baseline projection for rebounds for Okongwu right now is 8.4. That feels about right to me. And it's not really off from the betting market because I could see a star right here. So something in the 8.5 range. I think CJ is a little sneaky. I think Jalen Johnson is pay up to be sneaky. Because think about it. Jalen Johnson is the most expensive guy today on DraftKings. And let's be clear. He has not been playing like the most expensive guy on DraftKings lately. Interesting pay up to be contrary. If that ownership stays around 10 and you see Cade at 20, Donovan Mitchell at 25, I start to think about pay up to be contrary in Jalen Johnson. Happy to help, EMAC. Final game of the night. On the main slate, at least. Detroit Pistons, New Orleans Pelicans. Karis LeVert, questionable for the Pistons. Herb Jones, questionable for the Pels. Jose Alvarado still out. Obviously, who the hell knows on Herb Jones? Herb Jones missed a boatload of time. They brought him back. He played 35 minutes in a return and has not played in their past 7 games. I don't have a clue how many minutes Herb Jones will play if he can play today. Feels like it could be a lot, but maybe they learned their lesson. I don't know. It's pretty rare that you miss 10 games, play 35, and then miss them again. So keep that in mind. But again, these 8 o'clock games are games we want to have our eye on. Because this allows for more easy swaps at 7:30 and just before 8. Now in this Pistons-Pels game, Tobias Harris at 5,200, currently projected for 30% ownership. Your guess is as good as mine how many minutes this dude's going to play. Don't know if you caught it last time out for the Pistons, but on Monday, Tobias Harris played 35 minutes. Duncan Robinson played 32. They really trimmed the bench. Is that going to happen again? I don't know. I have no idea how many minutes Tobias Harris is going to play, but if he can play 35, he's very interesting. If everybody's already there, I'm nervous he plays 28. I think Duren looks good in this spot, obviously, against the Pels. He's getting the ownership. $5,500 Asar Thompson, 25% owned. That just seems easy to get to. Kind of just feels like obviously it's the exact opposite player, but very similar to Brandon Miller at that small forward spot. Fears is 20% owned. Cade's close to it. LeVert with his Q tags 15, but he's 3,600. Duncan Robinson seems a little sneaky if he could play 30 minutes, but he's 4,300 and a terrible per minute guy. In this one, I see a $7,900 Zion Williamson not getting any ownership, looking like a really interesting GPP play. $6,900 Derek Queen, whose minutes have been less than predictable, 2% owned. Trey Murphy, 8,100, 2% owned. $4,700 Eve Messi, 2% owned. I see this game with a lot of dudes that aren't getting much ownership. That wouldn't surprise me if they're in the winning lineup by the time this slate is over. And they're not going to get talked about. Whether it's Zion, whether it's Queen, whether it's Murphy, whether it's Messi. And like if Herb Jones ends up out, I think we could have a conversation about somebody like Sadiq Bey. Right now, we're going to be using the Pistons to place hold a lot of these lineups. And that's fine with me, because at 8 o'clock, I can make this become anything in these final 2 8 o'clock games. But I think the Pelicans are more interesting. Now, we got to remember, it's a terrible matchup for New Orleans. Detroit's defense is very real. Probably the best aggregate rim protecting team in the league. Obviously, like Wemby and Chet make it a problem, but Beef Stew, one of the best rim protectors. Jalen Duren does a decent enough job doing it. So the matchup's awful. This could be a spot where the Pistons win, 108 to $1 billion below that. Like 108-78 is the type of game that's in play. But if the Pelicans can stay around this one at least a little bit, it feels like they're not getting enough love. Not a ton of options in the betting market, but Asar Thompson under 5.5 rebounds is sitting here as the most positive EV in our new props tool. But that's where we stand for today. We took a lap through each team. We took a look at the ownership. We took a look at some pivot options in the low owned range that I think we can keep our eye on throughout the rest of the day. But we've got a much more simple slate than we've had recently. Slate's locked by 8 o'clock tonight. Only 5 games on the main. That's where we're at right now. You'll get plenty of content coming out through the rest of the day. See what we can drop and improve for you guys. Don't forget, if you want to sign up at Stokastic and use the tools that I'm showing, including that props tool, including the Sims, there's a link in the description of this video. If you click it and sign up through one of our partners, you get a month for free. You can sign up for more than one partner and get more than 1 month. When you click the link, all of the instructions are right at the top of the screen. You cannot miss them. As long as you follow those instructions, you get a free month. That easy. And you should want to come in. We're creating new tools constantly. We're updating them constantly. We're trying to bring you guys more of the things that we know you want. Doesn't happen overnight, but incrementally, it kind of does. For now, that's going to do it. NFL Strategy Show. Coming up next, Laffy, Greg, building out some tournament structures. I think that's what today's show is, going off the top of my head. You don't want to miss it. There's still great NFL to come. Should be a great weekend. You know, you get 2 great showdowns, a main, then we wait it out for the Super Bowl. 52 minutes on a 5-gamer. We're going to do it right there, folks. Thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, notification bell, follow me on Twitter. Sign up at Stokastic. Adios, everyone.